welcome to He Said, She Said, our inaugural video to single parents and life after divorce from our perspective, my perspective and Kyle's perspective.
Hey guys.
So we're going to introduce ourselves to you, and then we're going to jump right in because this is about the raw, naked truth of what we believe life after divorce as a man and a woman and parents is all about. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Naked, probably. Maybe too naked. So we'll try to keep it PG-13. Tops.
And as we share with you, we're also going to hope that you will share with us and let us know what you'd like us to share our perspectives on. And we're happy. We have opinions on pretty much everything.
Yeah, this is all skate. So we all get to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
My name's Kyle, obviously, and I've got a website that's called Chopper Papa that I've been running now for a year and a half. And I started it really off of a whim, off of somebody saying, you know what, hey, why don't you give this a shot? I wasn't a writer, didn't know anything about it, but I had a story to tell, and people, I guess, wanted to listen. My divorce was just exactly like a Lifetime movie, and I'm sure we'll learn about that over time. But it gave me the opportunity to share some things. My kids were very young when I got divorced. They were 9 months and just over a year and a half. So I had to deal with all of that. I don't have any family where I live here. So, when we split up, I was really on my own. And, I could have been like a lot of guys who just bolted. You know what? They, hit the first train out of town and landed on a beach somewhere in Florida. And I just wasn't that guy. So I made a lot of mistakes along the way. Clearly, I think I'm better for it now. However, anytime I get the opportunity to speak into the lives of another man who is going through the same thing, and there's a lot of them out there, if I can give them something to think about. I never write trying to solve a problem. I've never really tried to be that person who says, well, you should do it my way. What a bunch of garbage that is, all right? I don't have the secret sauce. But I'll give somebody something to think about, whether it's, when to, introduce the girlfriend for the first time, when to introduce the kids to the girlfriend, how to do family sleepovers or why not to do family sleepovers and stuff like that. So just things that, maybe a guy who's going through a divorce or maybe who's just on the backside of it, he's never thought about before, and really women too, but, I wish I would have had the opportunity to, back in 04, 05, to have someone say, dude, think about this, and I didn't.
I'm Laura Campbell, by the way, and I started my business, The D Spot. I started wanting to, I figured if I could go through the massive transition that my divorce was, totally I did not expect. I thought, okay, my marriage is going to end, but life will go on. And life, of course, did go on. However, it was dramatically different than it was before. It wasn't just my marriage that ended, but all of my friendships changed. My financial situation changed. My professional situation changed. Clearly, as you just mentioned, there's changes in, being a parent when you're doing it as a single parent. My kids were 7 and 10, and I just figured if I'm an assertive, smart woman with a great support circle, and if I was struggling, then everyone must be struggling. It's just bigger than I thought it was. So I decided that it was time to start a business to support women, and I didn't start so much with writing as you did. I started actually with my comfort zone, which was event planning, believe it or not, and bringing together women to get their sexy on after divorce.
What does getting your sexy on entail?
Oh, boy. I think at the time that I realized that my marriage was not going to work, I was in my mid-30s, and I felt so dowdy and old and like, I don't know, I lost my mojo. I definitely lost my mojo in my marriage, and I can't blame that on my ex-husband. I definitely take responsibility for that, but I definitely lost it.
Why? I mean, so why? Why?
Because I was focused so completely on being a wife and mother that I totally lost perspective on who I was as a woman. And it bums me out now because, your body doesn't go back. Like that was it. I had it. And not that I still don't, because I do, but it's sad for me that I lost touch with that. And I think it's a really common occurrence for women because I think, and I say this all the time, but we look at marriage as our finish line. And I think, it's at one point you and I even talked about that. And instead of the marriage being the finish line, I really look at it as the starting gate to what should be a really cool and fun and juicy relationship. And that's not how it worked for me.
So when you say, did you just kind of let yourself go? Just, you didn't really take time to take care of yourself and do the things that you might have done either early in the marriage or more importantly when you were
Yeah,
dating?
I think I live in rural Connecticut and in suburbia, and I had two little kids, and I didn't take the time that I wanted to, and I didn't even think of myself as a woman. I know it sounds really strange, but I thought of myself as a wife and making sure that, my wifely stuff was done, and as a mother and being, I don't know, getting to the right number of outdoor physical activities for my kids every day. What I didn't think about was I want to be like this sexy thing, which that's very much a part of who I am, and it just was gone, and it took me a while to get that, and pretty much I'm helping women get their sexy back. I'm really
So does the D spot and getting the sexy back, I'm assuming, is that just happened to be happenstance?
Yeah, kind of. It took place with, I came up with that name with a girlfriend actually as we were out drinking martinis, talking about getting our sexy back, and we were really talking about what it would be like when we did get our sexy on. And we just thought we were so clever that we were going to discover our D spots. And we looked at each other pretty much and laughed, and we're like, oh my God, we're so great and clever.
You're brilliant. You're a marketing genius.
We were like, we're brilliant. We're brilliant. And the truth is, there isn't somebody that I tell my business name to that doesn't actually think that it's fabulous, because it's a great name. But it's really, more about what that actual D spot is and the place in each of us that it resides, and getting back in touch with it. And it really is the place where getting your mojo back happens.
And what do you tell these people? What do you tell these women to get their mojo back? What's the number one rule you give them? So if I said, okay, Laura, one rule for women to get their mojo back, what are you going to tell them? The one thing.
It's not about sex.
What?
It's not about sex.
I thought that's what
Getting your
it all was
mojo
about.
back is about, and getting your sexy on is about finding that within yourself again. And it took me a while to do that. I don't know about you, how you felt.
Oh, I never lost my sexy. I've been sexy from day one.
I'm
the sexiest person you know.
That is probably true. But you don't always feel that way when you're coming out of that, when you're coming out of the divorce thing, and it's hard, don't you think? Tell me, what did you just breeze right through it?
I don't know if in my divorce it was a situation where it was a loss of sexy, right? We never had the physical issue, okay? We never had that. she met someone else and ended up going that direction. Now you can take that for what it is. I don't know all the details, and quite frankly, I don't care at this point. It's been over 7 years ago. So I didn't really feel that when I came out of it that I had lost something as far as for myself. Now I certainly felt that I hit the dating scene running hard, like immediately. And, looking back, that was stupid to do, right? I mean, anybody that I talk to now, if I say, okay, I'm getting divorced, what's the one piece of advice? I say, go grab a calendar and go to 1 year from today, put a big circle around it, and don't date or see anyone until you get to that date, all right? Now, most people look at me like I have 3 heads, but after they got to that point and they've gone through all the nonsense and all the stupid things and all trying to relive their 20s again and, going out and all the one-night stands and all that stuff that divorce seems to entail, they come back and they're like, yeah, you know what, I really kind of wish I'd have done that now.
So I have a question because, and maybe we can put it in our little, like, for the next time parking lot, but I think one of the things I hear all the time, I did not have infidelity. That was not a part of my divorce experience.
Okay.
But I work with a lot of women who that is part of their divorce experience. And I hear all the time that if they are the ones, if it was their husband who was having an affair and now he's off having his new and wonderful life, so how come he doesn't feel this like I feel it? And I am always very quick to say, just because he's with the woman he had an affair with, or just because he's in a new relationship, doesn't mean he doesn't feel this. Do you think that?
Go ahead.
I happen to think that men still feel it, just in a different way.
Define this. What do you mean by this?
The pain of
loss
of your marriage, the ending of a marriage, the divorce itself.
All right. So let's look at your situation you just gave. So the guy they're divorced and he's off now with his 22-year-old secretary, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
First off, he probably had checked out of the relationship at some level long before the divorce. So he had already worked some of the stuff out. Because I can assure you, the first time that he got in contact with the 22-year-old, and we'll use the PG version here, he had already convinced himself in some way or another that it was okay. Either she had done something to piss him off, and this is going to be the way he got back at her, or whatever. We can justify anything to ourselves. I mean, humans are really quite stupid when you think about it, right? The second deal is that the reason why he doesn't probably feel the pain in the same way as she does in your situation is that the relationship ended on his terms.
Here's the bottom line for me. For me is I'm less concerned with an M word as I am with relationship, with the R word. And I made the mistake of not really, and this was mine, I own it, that I really didn't know shit about relationships. I had no idea what I was doing. I had absolutely no idea what I thought it was supposed to be. And so I threw myself into being a wife and mother, and then I found myself in something that was not the right relationship for me. And now, and after that, hence the reason for the D spot, I made a commitment that whatever the relationship was going to be that I had next was going to be everything I wanted it to be. That would be my sole focus. Less about walking down an aisle and less about, the party.
So and you're just saying is you're being intentional.
Very intentional, and I didn't do that, and it was really hard for me to learn how to say what I wanted, clearly.
That should be our topic for next week, because I personally believe in intentional romance. Now that's
I love that.
all right. I believe in intentional romance. All right, and what I mean by that is we have spent way too much time, thanks to Disney and to Hollywood, believing that relationships are supposed to happen spontaneously and automatically, right?
Yeah.
That is, you know, the warm and fuzzy feelings and the butterflies in the stomach. Well, if all those things are there, right, then I must be in love. What a bunch of bullshit that is, right? But we live by that, and as soon as the butterflies are gone, what's the first thing that we think? The relationship.
It's over. I must not love him.
It's over. That's exactly right. Because everything was just rainbows and awesome and fireworks, and every time I saw him, I just couldn't stop thinking about him and shut up. And then when that's over, there is nothing else. So I completely believe in intentional romance. Absolutely. It's the reason why relationships will either succeed or they will fail. And it's because we have to be at least, and I've been with the Queen now for almost 4 years. I can tell you, much like yourself, it is very intentional, some of the stuff we do. And people think like, oh my God, that's so sterile and it must be in a hospital or something because it's so organized and Six Sigma and all this garbage. I'm like, 3.5 years later, I mean, it's like, listen, I know.
And I think you're absolutely correct. It is. I love that so much, intentional romance. And I love that because I believe there are key. We should make this a topic for next time because there are ways to make it that way, and people get very interested. You have the Queen, and I have Drew, and Drew.
But back up. You've got to think of a better name for him than Drew. I love Drew, but if I've got the Queen, you got to think of something by next week. That's your homework for next week. You got to think of some name for him, like the Prince or.
He'll die with the Prince.
You know, El Greco.
Right, I have to come up with something.
Exactly.
I'll come up with something creative. And we've been together almost 5 years, and as I say often, it's not perfect by any stretch. We're two perfectly imperfect people with, 4 children between us, a dog, many siblings, half siblings, step siblings, like the whole kit and caboodle of it. But and people ask if we're getting married, always ask me, are you going to get married again? And that's not even part of my thought process. My life works with making sure that we keep it an extraordinary relationship all the time and to deal with the things as they come up. And I believe in strategic communication. You believe in intentional romance, and I believe in strategic communication, which means maybe another way of saying thinking before you speak, or really deciding what you want to happen before you engage in communication. We're going to do this every week. We're going to talk about something. We have plenty to talk about, but how should people tell us what they want us to talk about or pose questions or...
So if you look down right now, you'll see an email address. That's an email address that you can send questions to if there's a topic that you want to ask somebody or something you want us to talk about or whatever, or you want to shoot questions to us, you can do that. Also, you'll see Laura's and my website at the end of this. Be sure that you come by and check us out. You can also follow along on Facebook and Twitter if you want to do those things, and we can all just be one big happy juicy family. It'll be awesome.
For this he said, she said is for us to be a force for creating what you want and not looking back.
I think our time is almost up.
I think so too. We've given them. I think we've given you guys like a lot to think about. You certainly know quite a bit about. Again next week, same time, same place.
You got it, Laura. We'll see ya.
Bye.